When we talk about technology, we usually think about all the amazing things it does for us. It promises this brighter, more efficient future, right? But for a lot of people, it also brings this feeling of uncertainty, this worry about our jobs, and really our whole way of life. It's a classic double-edged sword. And today, we're going to take a closer look at how it cuts both ways.
So, let's just start with a simple question to get our heads in the right space. What do a brand new, top-of-the-line smartphone and a simple, sharpened pencil actually have in common? I mean, one feels like the absolute peak of modern tech, and the other is, well, it's just a pencil. But the answer to this might just change the way you think about what technology really is.
So what's the answer? They are both technology. It's kind of surprising, right? Our source here defines technology in a really broad way. It's just the practical application of knowledge. It's not just about silicon chips and code. It's the wheel, it's a cooking pot, and yep, even that pencil sharpener. At the end of the day, it's any tool that helps us do things better. And really getting that is key to everything we're about to dive into. And that idea, it brings us right to the core conflict of this whole story. With every big technological leap, we're kind of presented with two possible futures. One that holds the promise of progress, and another that brings the peril of being left behind. And this isn't a news story. It has played out over and over again for centuries. On one side, you've got the incredible promise, amazing new products, new kinds of jobs, and unbelievable efficiency. Think about Henry Ford's assembly line. It created a total boom in mass production. But then there's the other side, the peril. This very real fear that machines are going to take our jobs, push skilled craftspeople out, and, ultimately just replace us. And listen, this is not just some 21st century panic about AI taking over. This fear is old. As this quote gets at, people have been afraid of losing their jobs to machines for a long, long time. I mean, way back in the 19th century, English textile workers literally protested violently against the new power looms because they just knew that these machines were a direct threat to their craft and their livelihoods. Okay, so to see how this whole promise and peril thing actually plays out in the real world, let's jump into our first case study. We're heading to the agricultural fields of India to see what happened there. After its independence, farming in India went through this massive technological revolution. I mean, it went from a system that was totally dependent on the whims of rainfall, using simple wooden tools pulled by animals, to a completely modern system with dams for irrigation, incredible high-yield seeds, powerful tractors, and chemical fertilizers. The transformation was just total. And wow, did that technology deliver on its promise. Just look at this chart. Food production more than doubled in about 40 years, from 101 million tons all the way up to a staggering 229 million. This technology literally helped feed a nation, an incredible achievement. But, and this is a really big but, all of that incredible efficiency, it came with a very real human price tag. And that cost can pretty much be summed up by one single powerful machine that started rolling across those fields, the combine harvester.
80. This number really says it all. A study done in one village found that for every single farm worker, the arrival of the combine harvester meant a loss of 80 days of paid work. 80 days of lost wages per person. That's the peril, right there in black and white.
And look, this pattern of new efficiency leading to displacement, it wasn't just happening out on the farms. We see the exact same story playing out in our second case study, which takes us from the fields to the factory floor of the textile industry.
All right, so let's set the scene. We're back in the late 1980s. At this point, the mechanized power looms were already the biggest players, making up about 55% of all cloth in India. But the traditional, artisan-driven hand loom sector, they were still holding their own, with a respectable 25% of the market.
Okay, now let's fast forward just over 20 years. Whoa, the power looms have completely solidified their dominance, now making up 63% of all production. And the hand loom sector? It's been squeezed down to just 16%. That is a dramatic shift in a pretty short amount of time. So what was driving this massive shift? Why the takeover? Well, this slide tells you everything you need to know. It all boils down to raw productivity. A single worker on a power loom could crank out almost 6,000 square meters of cloth. A hand loom weaver? Less than 900. That's more than a 6 times difference. In a competitive market, that kind of efficiency is it's almost impossible to compete with. And here's the human side of those numbers. Just look at a state like Tamil Nadu. It went from over 500,000 hand looms down to about 155,000. Each one of those disappearing numbers represents a person, a family, a lost livelihood.
And even for the people who managed to find new work in the power loom sector, it often meant really low piece rate wages with zero benefits or job security.
Okay, so far, this story sounds kind of bleak for the traditional worker, doesn't it? But here's where technology's story gets a lot more complicated. Our third case study shifts gears into the service sector, and it tells a very different kind of story, the telecommunications boom. I mean, it's hard for some of us to even imagine, but it really wasn't that long ago that making a simple phone call in India was a huge ordeal. You might have to book something called a trunk call and literally wait for hours just to get connected. It was slow, it was expensive, and for most people, it just wasn't an option.
To put that into perspective, as recently as 1998, there was only just one, single phone connection for every 100 people in the entire country. Think about that for a second.
And then, boom. By 2012, that number didn't just grow, it went supernova. There were now 167 connections for every 100 people. Yeah, that's right, more phones than people. This wasn't just a small improvement, it was a complete and total revolution in how an entire nation communicates. And here's the really cool part. This wave of technology was different. It didn't just replace old jobs, it created a whole ecosystem of brand new jobs that just hadn't existed before. All of a sudden, you needed people to make the phones, to sell the phones, to repair the phones, and to run all those little shops to recharge them. It created a massive boom, especially for young people who were just entering the workforce.
So, we've looked at farms, we've looked at factories, and we've looked at the service industry. We keep seeing this powerful pattern of creation and destruction, side by side. So what's the big takeaway from all this?
Well, the bottom line is this. Technology is this relentless, powerful engine of change. It just is, and its impact is never, ever simple. For every amazing new opportunity it creates, an old way of life, an old skill, or an old job often gets left in the dust. There are always winners, and there are always losers. But, and this is a really critical insight from our source material, who gets to be the winner? A woman quoted in the study, Prabhabati, she points out that these new jobs that technology creates, whether it's fixing a tractor or repairing a smartphone, they're often only available to people who have a certain level of education. As she puts it, modern technology is basically always biased towards the educated. And that really leaves us with the big, unanswered question for our time, doesn't it? As the pace of technology just gets faster and faster, it's accelerating. How do we make sure we build a society where all those incredible benefits of innovation get shared by everyone? And not just the people who are already educated or just happen to be in the right place at the right time? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining us.